Economics models. So this week in class, your group is going to choose a specific project in lab. You're going to have to commit to the fill in the blanks. And you're going to create a simple economics model for it. Recall that a model is the starting point for applied economics research. The model gives you something to test. As you learned earlier this semester, economics models are typically communicated as an equation. Recall, this is from week 2, any economic model explaining the relationship between some variable y and another variable x can be summarized as y is a function of x. That's how we read that expression. And what that means is that the value of y depends on the value of x in some way. It's very, very general. We're just saying that x is related to y. When x changes, y changes. So that's basically what you're going to start with. Okay, so remember the two questions you have to choose. Either does something that matters a lot in life depend on income? I'm going to say happiness. Or does wealth depend on something that helps countries generate income? So that might be, say, human capital. To model a question, propose a simple relationship. Okay, so for this question, we're going to say y is a function of x. In this case, x would be the income and y would be the thing, say happiness, that depends on income. Okay, the other one is, does income depend on something that helps countries generate wealth? So you'd have the same setup. Y is a function of x. In this case, y is income, and x is going to be, let's say, human capital is what determines income. Okay, so what are the model conventions? How do you write this up? Okay, you can use this language. I propose a simple model. Y is a function of h, where income y is a function of health, h. I expect that higher levels of health are associated with more income. So one of the conventions is that you just use letters to denote the different variables. Okay, notice that the variables y and h are italicized both in the equation and in the text. So that's a convention. When you're naming your variables in your text, you should italicize them. And then the way that it's stated, you state the obvious. You say y is a function of h, and then you also say whether more h increases or decreases y. So here you say, I expect that higher levels of health are associated with more income. I is fine. You're going to be writing these papers as an individual, and there's just one of you. Okay. What? All that just to say that I think health is positively related to income? Yes, that's the way we do economics. And it's not just sort of like a secret handshake. It's very convenient. For knowledgeable readers, your reader immediately knows what you are proposing as a relationship. So how do you come up with a model? How do you decide what's y, what's x? One way is to use existing models. So from introductory macro, we know that income is a function of capital, human capital, and technology. Okay, you can also use common sense and what we call casual empiricism. Casual empiricism is what you notice around you in data without a lot of in-depth analysis, so just what you see. Traffic seems to increase when gas prices fall. So that could be your model. People are friendlier when the weather is nice. So friendliness is a function of weather. Okay. But you can start there, but then you need to review the relevant literature for what others have found and the models that they used. And that's what you'll be doing in class. This week you'll be developing a model. And we're going to give you a lot of guidelines so that it doesn't get overwhelming. We want to really keep it simple. So we're asking you to propose a model with two independent, those are the x variables. One will be your main variable of interest and the other will be a control. So here's an example. Y is a function of h and k, where y is per capita income, h is health, and k is capital investment. And so my main variable of interest is health, but I want to make sure that I'm controlling for other things that I know affect income. Okay, and here we have h is a function of y and d. So now forget about the XY conventions because I'm actually labeling these, basically I'm labeling the axes, right? So H is going to be on the y-axis. That's the dependent variable. It depends on income. And what's D? Let's see, doctors per 1,000 people. So if I want to know what determines health, well, I might want to control for how many doctors there are and see that if income is something extra. So that's the idea of having the two. You can actually control for what we know affects the dependent variable and see if our variable of interest also affects the dependent variable. So you'll need a model justification. You'll choose the model variables after reviewing the relevant literature just from two places, right? Palgrave and the Journal of Economic Literature. You'll need to have a good reason for choosing the model variables, and explaining and justifying the model will be another section of your paper, which will be your writing assignment for next Sunday or Monday. And that concludes the lectures for this week. You're now ready to take quiz 10. See you in class.